And boom, according to that, I'm live. Welcome. My name is Hiko Simon. Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Day, Christmas night, I suppose. 2:30 p.m. in Sweden, I see. I It's late here at night. It's a quiet night, so I figured I might as well log in. I expect most people, I almost hope there aren't so many viewers today, at least live, since I expect it will be Christmas Day for many people around the world. At least if you're in a place that celebrates it. Japan doesn't really. Japan kind of quasi celebrates it. It celebrates it in a sense that it does the trappings. It does in its own interpreted way. It's a date night. It's like another Valentine's Day. Of course, there's chicken. There's all this, but all of that is really on Christmas Eve. So it's almost like Japanese Christmas is it's entirely based on the Hollywood version of Christmas and the sort of commercialized version of Christmas that we see through the media. And it's sort of like as if it's all been observed by aliens, like watching our media and then reconstructing Christmas themselves based on what they see, where it's all about Christmas Eve instead of Christmas Day, and it's all about people playing Wham and all of that sort of stuff. Which, in a way, I mean, I suppose if unless you're very religious, that's pretty much what Christmas kind of is for a lot of places, anyway. So I guess I mean it. I've never really thought of it as an overly religious sort of a thing, even though, of course, that is what it is intended as. But yeah, I mean it more as a time of year. I'm glad this year it fell on a Sunday in Japan, so or everywhere I suppose. So it means I don't have to work today, which is nice. But yes, KFC indeed. Nice to see, by the way. Is this my life? I don't recognize the handle name, so it's nice to see you there in the chat. Ada Void, good morning to you. Merry Christmas and all of that. Happy holidays, I think is a politically correct term, but it's okay to say Merry Christmas, surely. I mean, like I say, I don't say it in a particularly religious sense. I hope that you are all having a great day or have a good day ahead. Um, just remembering as well, I've got to call up my sister in the UK after this as well. Just I probably left that a little bit late. I didn't want to call too early, but then I got wrapped up in the night routine. Oh, Sweden celebrates the 24th. Okay, well there you go. So Tim the Asian Ink, boom, 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 boom. Yes, that reminds me. I don't know if you are familiar with the TV series Blackadder. But the Baldric character in the fourth season writes a poem about being in the trenches in World War One, and the words to the poem are "Night in the trenches," and it goes boom, 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 just for a very long time. So poetic, Tim the Asiatic. Thank you, Dan H. Good to see you, Dan H. Wow, I was not expecting to see so many people rocking it. It's great to see so many people in here. Not so many topics, not so much news this week. Honestly, I'm just kind of chilling out. I wasn't even sure if I'd do a show, but I thought, what the hell? Might as well come in even just if I keep it short. But yeah, Kustos, on time indeed. Good to have you in here. Setsuna, watching from Tokyo. Well, good to have you watching from Tokyo, Setsuna. Good to have you all in here. Some good news from me as well. I sorted out the issue with the music. So, yeah, I was able to do that, and I'll be able to actually play some music tonight, which is partly what I was thinking I might do. Yeah, got a few topics. I haven't really done a particular look back on 2022. I guess I'll talk about that a little bit. It's been another weird year, I suppose. Yeah, lots to look forward to in 2023. I hope for all of you as well. I think it's a very interesting time in humanity. Merry Christmas right back at you, Kustos. Good to have you. Is this my life? Asking, how did I celebrate Christmas? Yeah, presents to my son this morning. Played some Fortnite. Ever since the new chapter 4 of Fortnite, I've only actually, my son is really into Save the World lately, which I don't like. So I've kind of stopped playing it. But just yesterday and today, played one game both days of duo with my son. And basically, my son is much better than me. And both times I played duo with my son, I never got a victory royal in Fortnite in the new chapter until I played with my son. I've played with my son twice, and I've got a 100% win record, all because of him. But that was kind of cool. But yeah, just chilling out at home. I went up to Ikebukuro Seibu, and I got some. Rather than cooking, we don't have an oven, but I went and got a nice Vietnamese roast chicken and some roast beef and some grilled vegetables and stuff, and got some nice stuff for dinner. So it was pretty easy going, low effort, just chilling around at home pretty much. So yeah, Tim the Asian Egg, single and don't celebrate Christmas. Yeah, well, watch Die Hard, get some takeout, get some Kentucky Fried Chicken if you want to feel like you're in Japan. Honestly, I'm not far off that. Yuri the best. Good to have our man in Kiev with us. Glad that you're joining and that you have electricity and all of that. Very good to have you in here. Merry Christmas, however you say it and however you celebrate it. Religious or non-religious, I'll also say. But yeah, interesting to hear that in Sweden, there it is actually celebrated on the 24th, so just like Japan. So there you go. And of course, some parts of the world, they celebrate it for like 2 weeks. Happy Hanukkah for those who do that. I can never keep up. I think there's like one day left of that. I've seen people posting about it, and yeah, that's all cool. So whatever's your thing. But yeah. I suppose I've been thinking. I haven't really taken any further action thinking about a tweet up in Tokyo. I've been thinking about it. On the one hand, it'd be weird for me to be, I'm watching the Chris Broad trip to UK where he hires like an auditorium and has like an audio visual, thing going, and it's like a mass production. And of course it would. He's like a huge YouTube channel. And I'd never presumed to do any sort of an event where I'd be at the center. I've organized YouTube parties before. The nice thing about YouTube parties is that there are bigger YouTubers than me that people want to come and see. And I'm one of the people there to come and see the other people. And you all just sort of mingle equally at an event like that. But I must admit, when you do a tweet up where literally it's, hey, anyone who wants to say hello, come and say hello, I do realize that there's lots of people I'd really like to meet. But it's like, even when I met, like, I think when I did a sort of a meetup in Australia a few years ago, there was about 6 or 7 people came, and even that was like, wow, that was kind of. But yeah, in Tokyo, I'm seeing all the responses, and I think it might be like a couple of dozen people, perhaps, maybe even more than that. Which on the one hand, it's awkward because it means I'm not really going to be able to properly say hello. I'll get to say hello, but I probably won't get to have very good conversations with everybody, which I might want to do. But yeah, it's kind of like I'm not sure. Do I get a big place and prepare it like a big event? I really, my image in my head is still just to say, hey, just meet me at the Tokyo Sports Cafe or some other. I might try to find a sports bar or some venue like that that's big, maybe in Roppongi that's central, and that you can go to in the middle of the day. Yeah, just partly because I don't want to interfere with people's night plans, and I don't want to go out all night on it either, especially if I'm preparing to go to America at the end of January. Still not clear yet, by the way, just doing the immigration stuff at the moment. But the hope is I'll be able to get to America for 4 months from February, which will be something I'll be looking forward to, which would mean hopefully leaving a little bit before that to go get set up. Actually, really, really looking forward to that, and just seeing. I must admit, thinking about the things I'd want to do when I'm over there. I'll of course be there for work, but there is a thing with work that I might actually get a chance to go to Los Angeles, and I see people already inviting me. And I was already honestly thinking, how do I get to Huntington Beach? And I do actually have some justification to ask to go and work for a week in Los Angeles at one point. But already have an invitation, yeah, to go down there, which would be pretty cool. So all sorts of things. I also want to see a rocket launch. So it'd be cool to do that. So I mean, it's not tourism, but yeah, it'd be cool if I could get that sort of thing in. But yeah, is this my life is asking? How was my first time meeting Tikyo Sam? Just trying to think. When was the first time I met Tikyo Sam? You know what? I'm just trying to think. Either he reached out to me and we met up, or I met him probably with Tokyo Kuni. That's a possibility. In fact, you know what? It might be the first time I met Tokyo Kuni. Might have been when I met him, and he was sort of like somebody who hang out with Kuni a lot at that time. And yeah, Sam is exactly the same in real life as in his videos. I talk with him occasionally. I haven't really talked with him now, maybe more than a year. But yeah, but it's one thing about guys in particular, perhaps, is particular types of people. But I find I don't get this very much with women, but I do get it with men, that you will have this kind of very relaxed relationship. Well, also being an army brat and moving around a lot, where you'll have a conversation with someone where even you don't know them very well, it's very casual and relaxed, and you'll talk pretty familiar right away. And then you won't talk for 2 or 3 years. And then when you do talk 3 years later, it's like you pick up exactly where you left off. And that's kind of fun with Sam. Although I must admit, I mean, Sam, I think he was like 20 years old when I first met him. And now he's like 30 something. I mean, he's been here more than 10 years, and yet he hasn't. I respect that he doesn't seem. I both respect and fear that he's pretty much exactly the same. It's kind of amazing how he stayed true to that. But that was a lot of fun anyway. So yeah, I don't even know what he's doing nowadays. I think it's just partly the pandemic is that everybody's just sort of shut down a little bit, which is another reason it'd be cool to meet up. So still thinking Saturday the 21st of January. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but hey, if it goes well, I might do it again sometime. Still thinking either Tokyo Sports Cafe or something like it in Roppongi that's easy to grab a spot. And probably apologies in advance. I really feel awkward doing an event that's kind of me centric, and I must admit I kind of came up with the idea thinking it would be small, but I'm realizing actually there might be a lot of people that will come for this. And then I feel all this pressure that, oh, geez, it's going to be kind of, disappointing for everybody in that case. But I will do my best, and I am looking forward to it, and I will announce detailed plans of that soon. Just reflecting on 2022, geez, crazy now, right? With 2020, 2021, 2022, we've just had 3 years of pandemic and not really changing. We're going into like our 8th wave at the moment here in Tokyo. The numbers are still, they're not as bad as before, but they're still going up. And it's pretty much everyone everywhere, even in Japan now, is slowly like, okay, well, we can't be locked down forever. And we're kind of going back to some kind of normal, which I am glad about. Although, the situation isn't that much better. I think people are just living. I mean, the good news is, I suppose, we're getting better at treating it, but there still are a number of deaths and a number of serious cases, and we are going into winter. So it is still something I don't want to get. Oh yeah, that's some news. I got boosted on Friday. I got my 4th shot. I had 3 Moderna shots, and my 4th shot was my first ever Pfizer shot because I got it from the local council, not from work. And yeah, went well. I had no headache, no fever, nothing, just a sore arm for like a day. That was it. It was like the easiest I've had so far. I mean, it could have caused all of my hair to fall out, and I didn't notice. That's a possibility. But yeah, obviously that doesn't bother me. So yeah, I'm still winning. Tiger blood, all of that stuff. My 5G reception is awesome. So yeah, I know there are people. Well, everybody's different, of course, but seems like the right thing to do, and I'm doing it for selfish reasons. I want to make sure it takes a few weeks to fully kick in, and I want it to be there if I'm going to be traveling. So, yeah, Sainted Sir, excellent to see you. Hello, and Merry Christmas from New York. Wow, great to have someone from New York in here. Another place I would love to be able to go. Honestly, if I hadn't come to Tokyo, if Japan didn't exist, I probably would have, when I was 23 years old and tried to escape New Zealand. New York was like my number 2 choice in the world. Yeah, it must be cold over there at the moment. But yeah, Yuri the Best asking, everyone is still shut down due to the pandemic. Can you go into more detail, describe what that's like? Sure I can, Yuri. Japan was never locked down. It was all voluntary, but Japan's very big on social pressure and conformity, like rules, where if they ask everybody, please stay at home and only go out if you have to. While there'll be a few rule breakers, the majority of people will comply sufficiently that they don't need rules or fines to force people not to do it. And that allows, the good thing about that is that there are people who have genuine emergencies, or people who are emergency workers, people who have legitimate reasons to be going out. And of course, there'll be a couple of dicks. But there are sufficiently few, I think, relative to the overall population of people who generally act responsibly here, that everybody sort of acts as if it is mandatory, even though it's not the majority of people. And that's what it's been like here the whole time. There's, it has eased up a little bit, but the strong messages of encouragement to always wear a mask. I mean, everyone wears masks here. That's normalized in Japan. It was normalized partially before the pandemic that people would wear masks during the hay fever season or whenever you had a cold or whatever. Anyway, that was already an established thing. So working remotely, being generally sort of just considerate, the habits I have of, alcohol on the hands just every time you go into any building, any shop, the wearing masks, even outdoors. I mean, so much so the government's asking people to hey, take it easy on the masks. So yeah, when I say shut down, just sort of like, for example, my work is not fully back. I'm going into work a lot more often now, lately 2 or 3 times a week. But some people never go into work. And, it still has been 3 years since I've been in a situation where where everybody's been at work, which I miss a little bit, although I still see people in there now and again. But certainly the idea of doing something like a meetup or a large gathering, particularly if you've got a family, my sort of situation, most of those events have kind of stopped, or at least if they're happening in small groups among young people or whatever who are all okay with it, because it's awkward because a lot of people don't show up to those sorts of things, which is why a meetup for me is kind of a big deal, actually. But, we had our first work party in 3 years a few weeks ago. It actually turned out that there were like something like a dozen people got sick from that. Not COVID. Nobody got COVID, but everybody got like the flu. That's the other thing that's going around at the moment. Um, Nobody has immunity to that. When I got my shot, I was actually told also get the flu shot because that's actually going crazy. So yeah, that's sort of what it's like. It's voluntary, which is nice. It's not fully locked down, but it means that everybody is still cutting down on being social and going out. It still isn't anything like what it was 3 years ago. But I'm glad that we didn't have the mandatory lockdowns, which stressed everybody out and caused these bounce backs to be much stronger in other places. It's nice to be in a place where people act responsibly because they're asked nicely to, by and large, not 100%. But, whereas I think even places like New Zealand or Australia, you can't really make it work unless it's mandatory. But that's a shame because then you actually, have to end up doing ridiculous things like fining people who are outside of their homes when there are good reasons to be outside, for example. So, that's the situation. Dan H, planning to fly out from the UK. Probably need to change my holiday days. Yeah. And now I feel pressure as well. Don't change, please don't change. Look, Dan H, I want to meet you. You've shared a ton of stuff with me and introduced a bunch of sources to me. And you know what? This is the other thing. We wouldn't get to talk properly anyway. I would ask please, nobody change your vacation plans around me doing a casual meetup. I'll do another one if that, in any case. If you can make it, that is wonderful. If not, I'd love to meet up anyway. But yeah, I hope it'd be great to be able to meet up anyway. But yeah, my risk taker me clot running. Well, yes, I don't know what clot running means, but yeah, I suppose doing a meetup is somewhat risk taking in the circumstances. But hell, I'm going to America, so the whole country's like a big meetup there, as I understand it at the moment. So yes, Sainted Sir, whatever 22 degrees Fahrenheit is in Celsius. Well, so 32 is freezing, is 0, and so that's 10 degrees below 0 and divided by 2. It's like -5 or 6 or something like that, I think, in Celsius, which is plenty cold enough. That sounds miserable. In fact, I've heard like at something like it's like -35 that they become the same, right? Anyway, Dan H, would I recommend ANA or gel? Well, they're both good, of course. Both rate well. It's lately a thing that I've been getting. I'm watching Josh Cahill and Trek Trendy. I've been getting into these like airplane channels where they review like first class and business class on lots of airlines, sometimes even economy class. Gel and ANA both, of course, do very well. That said, if I was choosing, ANA has the better reputation. It is slightly more expensive. It's got a slightly more upmarket reputation. So if it was all equal and I could, if I could choose between the two tickets, I would choose the ANA. The other thing is that ANA seems to fly from Haneda more often. I tell you what, though, if it was the same flight from Japan to UK, and one was from Narita and one was from Haneda, I'd decide based on the terminal more than I would the airline. But ANA would be the choice if you asked me, although not a big difference. Mr. Cordy Chap, good to see Mr. Cordy Chap. -40 and they become the same. So there we go. I stand corrected. But yes, which would be ridiculous. Although I've heard it got like to -40 this week in Montana or something, right? Like in America, they're having some sort of crazy cold storm, which I did also notice in Seattle. Like there's actually like frozen streets and stuff like that, which is much, much colder. It's been a lovely day here. It's been cold. It's been like, less than 10 degrees here, but it's been sunny as Tokyo is through the winter. It's a nice place to be, at least until January. So, yeah, Kustos, 8th wave aside, do I think Japan and the West will survive the 2020s in their current forms? First few years have not been so hot. Many businesses didn't make it, inflation, etc., etc. We blame Canada for the weather. Do I think the West will survive the 2020s in their current forms? That's a big question. I mean, did the 90s survive the 90s in their current form? The internet happened in the middle of the 1990s, and I would say that 2000 was very, very different to 1990. I think we're going to see possibly bigger change than that during the 2020s, and that's even like forgetting all the wars all the pandemics, and all the other craziness happening in the world at the moment. So, there hasn't been a decade where anything stayed the same, and I think that the change is going to be bigger. I'm an optimist. I think in most ways it will be more exciting and better at the end of the 2020s. I'm looking forward to them. I think space travel is jumping ahead amazingly. Technologies are jumping ahead amazingly. I do hope that the wars sort themselves out, and I hope that the pandemic will be behind us. And medicine, all that stuff will be leaping ahead as well. So it'll be different. But, that said, I mean, I suppose I worry about the spread of authoritarianism and adventurism. I worry about China. I worry about Russia. Things I never would have imagined that we'd be looking at a major war in Europe. I would have been hoping that there would be no more wars in Western countries, and that even in the developing world, that we would be seeing fewer and fewer wars over time, and that's not the case, and that worries me, particularly if you combine that with technology. I think there's more risk associated with that, but I'm an optimist. I think that the world, even with everything going on at the moment, we still live in a better world than we did in 2010, which is better than it was in 2000, which is better than it was in 1990. And it's going to keep getting better, and I think it's going to keep going up at an exponential rate, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm an optimist. I think it will be better, but yeah, good question, Kustos. The J-Vlog, Merry Christmas indeed. Good to see you there, and thank you for joining. Wow, I'm so surprised to see so many people joining. I really wondered if anyone would join here, but yeah, Christmas special. Total random thing. I saw the Christmas special in 1984. Someone had a video of it. I think it was a video of it. I remember I was at my dad was in the army in Australia, and there was like some party, middle of summer, of course, but it was a Christmas party. And I remember I saw at someone's house. We were at a like big family. All the families, all the army families were together for a Christmas party, and in the house, the Christmas special was playing. And for years after that, I saw the Chewbacca trying to get home for Christmas for Life Day, and and I was a huge Star Wars fan, and I didn't understand what it was that I'd seen. And then when I saw that, later on that A New Hope was called Episode 4, I presumed that this was one of the prequels that I'd seen, that the Christmas special was just a really crappy, like Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2, before 3, it was just a really, really crappy prequel. And I would tell people that, the people, I remember talking to my friends, and they'd be like, why does it say Episode 4, like before the 1990s? Yeah, there's a movie before, I've seen it. And people say, no, that doesn't exist. And it wasn't until like the internet, it wasn't until like YouTube that it actually, that they couldn't suppress the Christmas special anymore. But here we go. Here is my Christmas special. Happy Life Day, everybody. My son is not called Lumpy, but there you go. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Oh, nice. Great to see so many people in here. And Dan H., I would argue the world hasn't been as good or recovered since 27 or 2008. Well, yeah, 2007, 2008, there was a huge financial bubble around that time, right, which wasn't sustainable. And even for all the bad around that, the good that's also come since then, and the way that our society has advanced in so many ways, I don't know. I still think it's better. I mean, you're right. If you're talking about the average daily life of people, and so on, of course, the huge real estate bubble that was happening in the US, everybody had a good standard of living. If you're into investment banking, yeah, that was about as good as it got. And yeah, the economic shock, we're still feeling it, I suppose. But there again, I think the world, I don't know. I'm always an optimist. I think we're always progressing. But yeah, it's a good question. Anyway, I'm going to quickly go through the topics that we have. There's not a whole lot, and I'm going to do some music just because, hell, I haven't done it for a long time. So yeah, here we go. First thing, disaster. Who could have ever seen this coming? Well, I did. I saw it coming a mile away when Shibuya installed transparent toilets. I've not actually seen these toilets myself, but in a park famous for being full of homeless people and riots in Shibuya, they installed these toilets where, if you've ever been to Yogi Park or any park in Japan, you will know that the park toilets have this thing where they often don't even like wall off. You can see all the way into the urinals, into the toilet from the outside, which is, I suppose, good for the ventilation. It's good for stopping the toilet stinking so much, which I guess is a hangover from like the pre-war days when, toilets were genuinely like horrific. But Yeah, they replaced these with modern toilets that were so modern that they would be transparent, so that you could see if someone was using them or not. And when you went in and closed the door, they would automatically electronically trigger chemicals in the doors, which would cause the doors to cloud over. So that if they were clouded over, they were occupied, and if they were transparent, you could see that they were that you could see that they were free. Amazing technology, and of course, what could go wrong with transparent toilets that electronically, chemically, activate to cloud to make them non-transparent when people are using them? Well, we discovered that yes, apparently, when it gets really cold, as is known to happen at certain times of year, such as winter, they will not. The chemicals that cloud will like not cooperate. They'll just be like, nah, screw this, and they will remain transparent with people in there. Basically, so basically, you're crapping in a glass box in a park. um, not an ideal situation. I think file this under ideas that were too clever to succeed fully. I joked that I could see this problem coming a mile away, as could everyone else in the park. But yes, happy holidays from Finland. Yoni, you're back in Finland? Wow. I will not complain about it being cold here in Tokyo. I'm sure it's pretty cold where you are, but thank you for joining and saying happy holidays indeed, Merry Christmas and all that good stuff. Happy holidays, good to see you there. Never known Florida for getting that cold. Well, it's attached to America, and it's like Australia. I think that from the right wind direction, I think Florida can probably get bad weather, but what can you do? So, crapping in a glass box of emotion, indeed, indeed. The next Anchorman movie could probably use something like that. So, yeah, not the best place to have a meltdown. Anyway, everybody could see your pain and everything else. Some kind of, well, good news or bad news, depending on how you look at it. The yen is, of course, extremely undervalued. And I've been talking about how it got to nearly 150 when, again, what generally over 25 years in Japan or so, the standard median rate of the yen to the US dollar is 108. And if you think of it, it's basically like the Big Mac index. Like the value of a Big Mac in Japan is cheap if the yen is anything higher than 108, like 110, 120, 130, whereas a Big Mac becomes expensive if the yen becomes 190. And in my time in Japan, it's been as low as like 72. And before this current spike, the highest it ever got was 125. 125 being cheap, right? That a US dollar buys more yen. And it got up to like 150, in the last few weeks. So it's kind of crazy, whereas all of a sudden, and basically the central bank said that the main reason, as I understand it by very layman's way, is that the US is raising interest rates, which means that if you want to store money in government bonds and bank accounts, whatever, it's going to earn more interest in the US, which means everybody's taking their money out of the Japanese accounts and moving it to US accounts, to the extent that people move money, because Japanese banks are continuing to print money and have ultra low interest rates of like 0.25%, which means that you're not going to make any money in Japan. Your money in Japan is just going to devalue if it sits here. So everybody's taking it out of the country. And they've said that they won't stop printing money and they won't increase interest rates in Japan until there is inflation. And not just inflation like we're seeing from energy shocks, but actually inflation from like wages going up. And that hasn't been happening. However, this week, the central bank did decide all of a sudden that without any warning, that they were going to raise interest rates from 0.25 to 0.5%. So not very much, but double. And it was the first time that they've raised it, and it caught everyone off guard. And the yen just suddenly dropped from like 138, 139 to it's down to 130 at the moment. So the 35 to 40% off sale that Japan has been on is now more like 25% at the moment. I suppose it's good for me taking Japanese yen to America, but it's not so good for tourists. If you want to come to Japan, I mean, it still is cheap here, but it's not as cheap as it was a couple of weeks ago. So probably good for people living in Japan, wanting to ever leave Japan and not feel like they're from a third world country. Also good if you're planning to come and live in Japan and earn money in Japan, that money's going to go further. Because certainly with the yen becoming cheap, it was starting to feel like, oh, this is the planned economic decline of Japan. But it's hard to say if it's going to stay here, if it's going to the yen's going to keep getting more valuable or not. But it's a thing that happened this week that basically shifted by about 10 yen. So that's the thing that happened. Sadiq Hakangurus, good to have our man from Florida in here. Good to have you, and happy holidays indeed. Right back at you. Hope you're having a pleasant time there. I hope you're having holidays there. I guess it's a Sunday for everyone. So, yeah. As I was going through my immigration preparation for America, I had to go and actually find every visit to America that I've ever done, which was like about 5 or 6 trips, but going back to 1999. So I had to go back through all of my passports, and I found my passport photos, and you can see the progression of my face. I found this interesting myself. So the one on the um, starts out with this is me when I was like two or 3 days before I turned 16. So 15 years old, but basically 16. And then exactly 10 years after, so about to turn 26, that was me with my blonde hair that I still had, 26. And then at 30, it was starting to thin out a little bit, but I also just got a crew cut at that time. It was just easy to look after. And that's me at 35, and that's me at 45 from recently. So some people are asking, passport uruwhenua is the Maori word for passport. New Zealand is a bilingual country, and particularly lately, everything is bilingual. But yeah, that's Maori language that's on our passport. It's a pretty cool passport. Is this my newest one? Yeah, this is my newest one. So that's what it looks like. It's got a cool design. It's kind of cool when you're standing in an immigration queue. People sometimes see the passport with the fern on it and stuff, and they say, "Wow, cool passport, bro." And it is. And it's a useful passport as well. I think now the Japanese passport has overtaken the New Zealand passport as you can get in anywhere. But for a long time, New Zealand passport was like one of the best passports in the world. You could get into any country pretty much. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So yeah, there's a kind of progression of my face over my life. There is actually, I did have a passport from when I was 4 years old. So there's one photo from 10 years before that, which I used to um, and yeah, even when you were a kid, New Zealand didn't make you update your passport photo for 10 years. And so it was always kind of awkward that because my mum's Australian, my dad's a New Zealander, I would, for every Christmas, go to the other country. I'd always bounce back and forth between New Zealand and Australia every year. And it was a nice summary of the difference between the cultures of the two countries, that whenever I'd show up as a very awkward New Zealand, like 13-year-old and 14-year-old, and my passport had a passport photo of me at 4 years old. That passport's in Australia. I think I don't have it on me. A photo of me at 4 years old, and the New Zealand side is kind of like they look at you, but they wouldn't say anything. They'll look at you, they'll pause a little bit, and then they'll, welcome back, have a nice day. And then you go over to the Australian side, and they'll look at it, and they'll look at you, they'll look at it again, and they'll go, "Hey, come over here, come over here. I don't think it's you." and they'll turn it into a comedy routine every time you go through. And when you're an awkward teenager, it was I used to hate going through Australian customs because I would just get roasted every time over my passport photo. I was a cute kid, but when you're 14 years old, 15 years old, going through customs on a passport photo of you as 4, it was pretty awful. It was pretty awful. I can laugh at it now, but I couldn't laugh about it at the time. But yeah, it is a banger of a passport indeed. Auntie Liana in Yokohama, Merry Christmas, and great to see you. Merry Christmas to everybody, of course. Why does Seko look like he's trying to audition for the Hitman series? I think that one in the middle, I must admit, I kind of freaked myself out. And for some reason, my eyes like pop out super blue in that one. But where is it? Got them all over here. Yeah, this is like they changed the passport thing to having like an electronically a digital photo. Like before that, you can actually see. They literally like cut out a photo and put it under like clear wrap on the old passports. I mean, it looks like a forged passport. Whereas when they switched to the digital photos, I probably shouldn't show this on camera. Actually, it's probably got personal info, but you can see the photo there. Oh, light's reflecting. But yes, the eyes popped out like way too much. But yes, I do look a bit like a Russian hitman. But what can you do? Yeah, good to see everybody. Those passports, yeah, 5 or 10 years. There's a 5-year thing because they switched to digital passports and they made me get a new one in the middle. But yeah, so that's a thing that happened. Another thing, my shoes arrived. So I figured when I'm in Seattle, I've got these Vaporfly, which are like totally plastic, weird looking, but quite very fast running shoes with like carbon insoles in them. And they're awesome for running. They do make me go fast, but they're not like casual shoes. They've got like weird things popping out the back of them and stuff like that. And when I go to Seattle, I do want to run, but I also want shoes I could wear daily, and I don't want to have to carry lots of shoes in my suitcase. Shoes take up like a ton of space if you're traveling. So, and plus the running shoes are wearing out a bit. I've had them for a year now. So yeah, got some new running shoes from Nike, and very very happy. I'm a convert. I've always worn New Balance shoes, but yeah, those shoes are maybe a Nike convert. I designed the colors on this myself. Someone pointed out to me after the fact that, oh, these are perfect like Seattle Seahawks colors, which I guess they are. It wasn't intentional, but they totally are. So I guess it'll go with the sportswear there. I'm going to look like a super fan. And hell, that's going to be part of the fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, again, fingers crossed. It's still got to get through the immigration stuff and so on, but all going well. I'll be there for a couple of months anyway. I'll enjoy that a few months, I guess. But I do like the shoes. And I must admit the fact I can custom make them and choose the colors and stuff. I could choose the laces, the sole, the swoosh, and the inner and all that. I got to select all the colors and all that sort of stuff, and it's cool. It's something I like about something you couldn't do in 2007. That's pretty common that you can do now in 2020, 2022, 2023. Speaking of 2023, a really big deal, I suppose. It's kind of like I haven't really thought about this very much, but yeah, apparently. All cyclists in Japan, it's going to be mandatory to wear helmets from 2023. You might ask why that's not the case right now, but the thing is, in Japan, it still is the majority of cyclists are still in New Zealand and Australia and a lot of countries. Cycling is something that people do on the roads. They're not allowed to do it on the footpath, which means that, if you're like an old lady going to do shopping, you wouldn't ever go cycling because it'd be too dangerous, right? It's really only if you can cycle where you're out on the road that you do that. And if you do that, you're serious. You wear a lycra bodysuit and the helmet and all that sort of stuff. Or, of course, in Japan, people cycle at a slow rate. Most bicycles are designed for shopping and stuff like that, for carrying kids and carrying shopping. And, people do ride on the footpaths and so on. And so because of that, there are road races and people ride on the roads, and they look like road races anywhere else. They wear helmets and so on. But most people who ride bicycles ride casually, and they sort of zip between the footpath and the road as convenient or whatever. But yeah, what's been happening is more people cycling and more people getting onto the roads. Because nobody wears helmets, at least other than people who are like super serious riders, when there are crashes, there's a high rate of deaths that are preventable by wearing helmets. So the government has decided to pretty much follow the rest of the world and make helmet wearing mandatory from this year, or next year, I guess, but very soon anyway, April 2023. And yeah, I remember. I think I remember being in Australia and New Zealand when helmets became mandatory. I learned to cycle without a helmet, but then it became mandatory when I was about 8 or 9 in both countries. And yeah, kids would get hassled for wearing helmets and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's something we had to go through. When this was announced online, a lot of people online said, yeah, I don't want to wear a helmet. It'll look silly. But I think the rest of the world's gotten past that. But will be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know it's certainly a thing that you see in Japan about the mamacharis, the bicycles with mums with shopping and kids on the front and the back, and they're cycling and they're on their phone cycling with 2 kids like cutting through a traffic light. I've had close calls with people like that. So yeah, it's I wonder if that can really change. Maddie likes the laces. I like the laces too. Those are much easier, those sort of pull ones, rather than having to lace them. Nothing worse than when you're running and you have to retie your shoelaces. So yes, indeed. Eat me raw. Good to see you, Eat Me Raw. We've got Sadiq. What is the model of the shoes? The shoes are the Pegasus 39. They're a custom version of the Pegasus 39. Yeah, so they're not like a competition running shoe. They are a casual running shoe, but yeah, they look comfy and they look like something you could wear without looking too stupid wearing to work with some jeans. So that's basically why I got them. They'll be dual use. And I see that we've got Erin in here. Erin, great to see you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody who's joining partway through. And I'm surprised to see you actually, especially on a Sunday morning on Christmas Day, but very glad that you can make it into the chat. Great to see you. Yeah, and Eat Me Raw, I agree. Those mamachari cycling on the pavement for quick trips to the train station won't like this new rule for sure. Also, I think the Oji-sans are not going to like this either. It's going to be a big shift doing that, but what can you do? Sadiq says, I should try biking in Istanbul. The last time I was flying over a car. You should try biking in Istanbul. The last time I was flying over a car. So the last time you tried cycling in Istanbul, you went flying over a car. I'm sorry to hear that. I would love to go to Istanbul, by the way. Sadiq, I have like um, one of my hobbies, one of my ancestry searching hobbies is grave hunting, and there's a cemetery in Yükseldiri. It's in the northern part of Istanbul. I have some relatives that are buried there that I've been meaning to go and check out the cemetery there at some point. I've always wanted to go to Turkey. Thank you for the tip. I won't bicycle when I'm there, but I'm hoping I will get there someday anyway. But yeah, I'd love to visit. They were there when it was called Constantinople, of course, but so it was a long time ago. But yeah, that is. I will not buy. I'll take the advice. I will not bicycle when I get to Istanbul. Is this my life? Asking how long will I stay in the US? It'll be between February and June. So I'm going to keep the show going. I'll have to change the times because the West Coast, this is not a good time for the West Coast in the US. It'll probably be a good morning Tokyo, good morning Seattle, Tokyo thing. I'm going to keep following Japan news as I do. It's over the internet. I'll be using all the same sources. I can still give the same. I'll still be watching NHK. But yeah, it'll be from a different place. And I'm looking forward to exploring over there anyway. But February through June. So it'll be a fair chunk of time. Merry Christmas, Eric Bailey. Good to see you in there. Erin, your daughter's somehow still sleeping. What? She did she get to the presents early? That was the thing. I'd always like wake up at 5 o'clock, jump on my parents, say you had to. We all have to wake up now. We have to open up the presents, and as soon as the presents are open, I'd go back to sleep probably for the rest of the day. But I wonder I don't know if that's your situation, but yeah, enjoy it while it lasts. Odie Jr., great to see you. Bada boom, indeed. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all of that stuff. Aaron, you're going to come and visit me in Seattle. That would be so awesome. That would be incredibly awesome. I would love that. And I was just saying at the start of the show as well, I may get down to Los Angeles for a week, or there's already a few people down there. And I want to go surfing once when I'm in America. In Seattle, it's obviously not going to happen. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to make that happen or not. But man, if you can come to Seattle, I would love that. So yeah, I'm going to see how when I can get down there. And like I said, still sorting out the immigration stuff at the moment, but that would be awesome. Coffee and cleaning and listening to me. With all my apologies, but great to have you in here. I do appreciate it. Other stuff that we've got going on. This is something I've been looking for ages. I've been talking about this white screen tube filter. YouTube in India is having multiple audio tracks. So you know how like you have on Netflix and how you have on streaming services where you can select the audio track that you want to listen to, and like you have on TV in Japan that you can select the English channel, the Japanese channel, or both. And I've been wanting for years the ability for YouTube to support multiple audio tracks, because for something like this, if I wanted to subtitle this, I would, basically, if you're a really good, fast, accurate subtitler, even if you just wanted to do captions, just captions, it takes about 4 to 5 minutes, 4 to 5 times what it takes to say. So for example, for a 1 hour video, this always takes about an hour. Generally you'd have to budget about 5 hours if you're really good to be able to put subtitles on everything, which especially if you're translating. I mean, if it's yourself, it's a little bit easier, but it's pretty grueling to do that, to block out 5 hours per week. However, if you could dub yourself or dub other things, I mean, I can simultaneously translate comfortably, particularly, again, especially if it's myself. So I do love the idea that I could do this show where I could put a Japanese audio track. I could listen to myself and simultaneously go through what I'm saying in Japanese and do a dub of that, basically like an Eastern European movie translator. And my experience of this, I was sharing this on Twitter. Apparently this was a thing all across Eastern Europe, that what they would do is when they'd have like American movies, they'd have these amazing translators. But they were like, rather than having a proper translation studio and editing and all that sort of stuff, they would literally live. There'd be like an old man with a microphone, or a woman sometimes, and they would simultaneously just say whatever the characters on screen are saying, and you could sort of faintly hear the English. And you would hear these, and they were like celebrities. There were these famous Russian and Polish and Romanian translators who would be like on TV, and they would be like every character on Baywatch. So you'd watch Baywatch, and you'd have this like old Romanian man saying, hey, I'm so glad to see you. Let me change into into a tighter swimsuit. And they go through this whole thing. And and the thing was, when I was in Romania in the early 1990s, I remember they actually would import Baywatch dubbed from Italy into Romania. So what they would have on TV was Baywatch in Italian with an overdubbing by an old man into Romanian. So it was amazing. Just the TV was amazing the way that they did it. But basically, the idea of being able to like live dub shows and stuff, I think would be awesome. I mean, I've been wanting it for ages, and I'd be tempted to actually see what would happen if I could get some Japanese engagement by dubbing in Japanese. I don't know how long that would go, but yeah, I would love to do that. It wouldn't even be reading, Aaron. I'd just be listening to myself and knowing what I'm talking about, being able to say the same thing that I'm talking about in Japanese. And hell, since it's myself, it doesn't even have to be exactly the same thing, but I could just follow the topics through and talk about the points that I'm making. I would love that. So they're doing this in India, of course, because in India, like it shows there's, so many major languages. I mean, Punjabi, Hindi, and so on cover hundreds of millions of people. So the idea that everything is, just English or Hindi is just ridiculous there, So hopefully if this feature does well and, gets out, finally, I hope that this sort of thing comes out. Have I seen Carmen Electra recently? She has resorted to hosting Lego shows. Okay, I'm a Carmen Electra fan, so I had no idea that she's hosting Lego shows, but I want to go watch now. I liked her when she was making music. I liked her music. Get On Up Now. That was all. She was produced by Prince, and I think she was actually better than Sheena Easton. Yeah, I'm all about. Geez, if she's hosting Lego shows, I'm gonna watch. Yeah, thank you for the recommendation. I haven't seen Carmen Electra recently, but I'm sure she is going to be awesome forever. Highly recommended. The Lego competition shows are funny. Wow. Okay, sold. Carmen Electra. Damn, there's a blast from the past. In less pleasant news, there was a Brazilian lady in Shizuoka. There's a lot of towns, factory towns, which took advantage in the 90s when they started it's kind of this weird thing where the Japanese government believed that when they realized that they were having labor shortages and to staff the factories, with workers willing to take low wages that the factories needed to remain competitive, they thought, well, we can't just open the floodgates to the unwashed masses of the world. We need to have people who will fit in with Japan, and what better, way to make sure they'll fit in with Japan than making sure they share our blood and our genetics, because genetics, of course, determines that, they're all going to be they're going to fit in perfectly well. So they said basically that anyone with Japanese ancestry from South America, for example, particularly Brazil, also Peru, they invited people of Japanese heritage to come and get easy work visas and staff all of these towns in Gunma and Saitama, places like that. And in one of these towns, Anjo, which I mispronounced when I first saw this in Japanese, An is like Yasu, and Jo is for castle, it's Shiro. And I didn't know if it was pronounced with a kun or an on reading, so I said it was Yasushiro and got corrected. Kanji sucks, what can I say? But apparently in this town, yes, a Brazilian woman who was applying for social welfare, she has a child which she was entitled to receive, was told by a city office worker, why don't you just go back to your country? Kuni kaireba in janai no. So, I mean, in a way, in the one hand, that kind of shitty racism, especially what I would call like you think about how racism can go from being really nasty to, and that she wasn't withholding the service, and there were nastier things that people could say. It was just a snarky, horrible, racist, but comment. That kind of thing goes on, would never get reported on in Australia or New Zealand or America or whatever. It's kind of nice in a way that it made the national news that a city worker in a shitty town in a crappy prefecture who was racist made a racist comment while giving a foreigner their social welfare, but it became top national news. But it's, of course, unfortunate. That said, it's not actually, these towns have been paying people to go back to Brazil. They didn't do anything to integrate these immigrants. They thought just if they've got, Japanese blood from 100 years ago, they're going to be fine. And they weren't. They needed support, which those towns brought them in for cheap labor, and they didn't know how to take care of them. So, yeah, no, seriously, her music, Mr. Cordy Chip, behave. No, check it out. Like, seriously, her stuff was actually pretty good. It's worth looking up. I mean, yes, she's good looking, of course, but no, I appreciated her musical talent the most. So there you go. Seriously. Anyway, people are still horrible, I guess, is the highlight of the story. It does highlight that Japanese towns, even 20 years later, still are struggling with integrating and looking after. There's a high rate of these kids, the kids of these Nikkei Brazilian immigrants dropping out of schools. No ability for the schools to be able to help these people catch up and keep up in classes. Which again, given Japan's continuing, the troubles that they've had with the apprenticeship scheme and so on, Japan needs foreigners to be able to look after its elderly and keep its economy going, yet it's got no motivation whatsoever to do much more than use these people for low wages. And, and again, they worry that Japanese, particularly less so now, but you'd hear it a lot 10 years ago. They talk about how, well, yeah, if you bring in lots of immigrants, you'll have all of the social destabilization like in Europe. But the social destabilization happens because of alienation within that society, So, Japan's taking the problem wasn't immigration. The problem was immigration without appropriate integration in society. And Japan still isn't good at doing that. So, it's good that this caused a big fuss, but hopefully people take the right lessons from it. This is 100% true, says the J Vlog. It happened to us also. Why not go to Canada when we are applying for wife's handicap benefits? Simon, I'm not sure which part that... now wait a minute. It happened to us also. So I can't contextualize. I think you're talking about that something like that happened to you when you were applying for benefits in America. Is that right? Why not go to Canada? And you were told that? Was that your situation? Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's horrible, but it happens. It should not happen anywhere. So, I mean, the good news is that it made the news. The bad news is that it happened. But to me, it just reflects again that again, I want Japan to succeed at this, and it needs to have foreign residents, and it needs to make it easier for those foreign residents and their kids to succeed. So what can you do? Thank you. I will search. Carmen Electra introduces aquatics challenge domino masters. Dominoes. Okay, well there you go. Final story. There's not a lot going on this week. Final story that I've got for this week is, as usual, these big public works contracts. The maglev train to Nagoya still is held up because they can't get permits to cut through some mountains in Shizuoka. And similarly, the Hokkaido bullet train is still getting held up. It is currently due to start in 2030. That might get pushed back to 2034 and is way over budget. But that said, by 2034, you should be able to catch a bullet train from Nagasaki and hopefully even Kagoshima to Sapporo if you wanted to. Certainly from Tokyo. You would have to switch bullet trains in Tokyo for that. But you would be able to catch a single bullet train, I believe, all the way from Tokyo to Sapporo, which basically is the same distance as Fukuoka. Much, much harder, of course. Getting from Honshu to Hokkaido, it's a very deep and difficult to be. The tunnel there is very, very difficult to make. But I mean, it's awful on the one hand that these things are always kind of corrupt and over budget and so on, and they're going to take more time. But that said, it'll be really, really nice and awesome. I've never been to Sapporo, actually. And I must admit, I mean, it does cost about the same to fly as it does to get a bullet train ticket. But there's something about the bullet train where you can just step off the train in the middle of the city and go do your meetings. I mean, it feels like more of a mission. It feels like there's more of a psychological barrier, I guess, to getting on a plane. There shouldn't be, but there is. I really like the idea of being able to get up there, getting a Japan rail pass and being able to visit Tohoku and Aomori and Hakodate and places like that, and get to go up to Sapporo for the winter festival and stuff like that would be pretty sweet. So I am looking forward to that. So all of that said, I am going to now make some music. I wonder if I can. Let me try something here. I guess. I'm going to try an experiment. I'm going to try what if I put the camera on here? Where is the camera? I can't see it. Hang on a sec. Okay, let me take off the mirroring for a moment. Okay, I'm going to try an experiment. Final thing for the year. do some music because I haven't done it for a long time. Camera. It's an iPad, so I guess I don't really use it that much. Okay, there we go. And mirroring. Okay, hopefully that reconnects. Oh, it's not reconnecting. Hang on a sec. Boom. Ah, unable to connect. Give me a moment. Okay, let's try it one more time. The streaming software crashed. Okay, let's try it now. Rebooting. Someone give me a genre of music. Oh. Hip hop, house, techno, drum and bass. Which of those? Okay. So let's try this. Or at least you get some view of what I'm doing on the screen. Someone give me, hey, Iraq 299, excellent to see you there. How does Japan afford these trains? I have no idea how they afford it, seriously. Not America, we live in Nagasaki. Oh, you were told in to why don't you go, geez, that's awful. I'm sorry to hear that, the J-Vlog. Geez, you could have been on the news. Yeah, that's pretty awful. Anyway, Christmas music. Oh, damn. Yeah, I should have seen that one coming. Okay, let us... Let's see what we can do there. Christmas music. That's going to be pretty hard. Heavy metal, I can't really do. This is an electronic thing. I guess let's just keep it standard in that case. Let's make it 130. Let's put in something that's good for 130 or 125. Oops. Oh, let's also turn on the sound. Line in, boom. Okay. Let's do some. Pretty good. Some bass. Yeah, see if I can find a good trance beat. I think there's a trance beat here. Hang on a sec. It's kind of trancey now. Whoops. It's kind of trancey now. Okay, I'm gonna give it one more minute and then I'll wrap up. Very cool. Okay, winding it up. There we go. There we go. That's the show. And that's 2022. Thank you for keeping me company. Oh, that cut out faster than I thought. Anyway, have a good year, everybody. Thank you for keeping me company. I hope you've had a great 2022. Hope you have a great 2023 ahead. I'm going to be here next week. We'll do a 2023 show, talk about the year that's ahead. Hope that you all stay safe and well. Thank you again for saying hello in the chat. Remember to like. I do appreciate it. Thanks for letting me make some music. Big year ahead. I'll think about the things that I want to do, but of course, hoping I'll get to see a lot of you in the next coming months as well. And yeah, look, have a happy Christmas or a happy holiday or just a decent Sunday wherever you are. And see you again, same time, same place next week. Looking forward to see you and take care. Boom, peace. Any stream. Merry Christmas.